So I would say the Marvel Rivals art style is comfortably in the top 5 most creative and inspired art styles to come out of the last decade. And while the game is basically Guna bait at this point, I can't help but find myself enjoying the art that comes out of it as well. Whether it be stills of characters, or new characters being added, or just new skins, the Marvel Rivals art style just looks great. So I wanted to study it. I wanted to note a few things before I dive straight into this video. If you hear like a whirring in the background, it's my fan. It's currently 35 degrees Celsius in the UK right now, and that may not sound too bad to people who live in usually hot climates, but this is our 5th heat wave in about 4 months, and officially the UK's hottest summer since records began, which was like a fucking while ago, so yeah. Another thing is that I'm studying the shading style of this only. I am not at the stage in my character designing / art creating life where I am comfortably trying to study the entire Marvel Rivals art style as a whole, so this video won't be touching on the shape language behind the designs nor on the way that the clothes are made, just purely on the shading, and even then I'm not entirely sure I did a good job. For this study, I was originally going to use 3 of my main characters for my webcomic. It's called Keys of Corruption, by the way, links to read it are in the description. But I did end up running out of time to do all 3, considering I'm recording this on the 13th of August and this video needs to go up on the 15th. Yeah, it's not gone well. So in the end, I ended up redesigning / studying on my main character, Rose. As most artists do, the first thing I did was make a Pinterest board and then make a general and very shitty design with some elements that I wanted to include. And honestly, I kind of just dived head first into making it. I think the first thing to note mainly as I'm starting the sketch is that this is a little bit of a follow-on from my last video where I was studying like facial shapes. I was specifically looking at noses and like the eyebrow ridges, and I've been practicing in my spare time as well on like some other just like general fanfic OCs and stuff. So I think I'm getting better, and I'm actually really enjoying being able to actually draw realistic-ish noses. I also did study the arcane art style like ages ago. It's not a video. Don't ask. So I know relatively like the planes of the face and stuff. So I'm kind of just going in, giving myself like some guidelines that I know I personally use to help like build this face in not necessarily like a 3D landscape, but like, I don't know, making it look more realistic is also the wrong word to use, I think, because I still am going for like a cartoony, like anime-ish style, but it makes it just like a little bit like less anime and more like, this person's put a little bit of study into their work, which, you know, I'm happy with. I have a new mic. I'm also holding it in my hand for the first time, so if it ever sounds like I do this, it's because I've moved my mic away. I talk with my hands a lot. But I'm going into the line art now, and you know, when you get to do these videos, you quickly realize that recollection and watching things back makes you realize that you've missed a step. And in this case, I missed a major thing, which was that the whole point of like the Marvel Rivals art style is like the line art isn't perfect. And I completely forgot about that. So my line art is like perfect line art, essentially. So I missed a step there, but that's okay because I'm kind of happy with it. You know, I think it's fun. I think it's a vibe. But, you know, I'm still learning, and I think for my first attempt at studying this style, I thought I did well. You'll see me going into my files sometimes to get out the aforementioned fanfic characters that I've been studying on. Yeah, I just somehow nailed it first time on those ones, so I was like, well, I'm just going to copy them. Why would I not? I also, for Rose's face, did take... I had an image of Nana Komatsu. She is a Japanese actress. Oh god, I think she's Japanese. Yeah, I think she's Japanese. And I kind of just like studied the way a bit of her face. I was mainly looking at the nose to try and... Rose is Asian, so I was trying to go for that like that Japanese Asian look, but I don't know if I nailed it. So, you know, we'll see. I was just going then straight into the line art design, which I wasn't necessarily struggling with, but my initial designs were so shit that I just had to improv on the way in. And I was also using, I think I used as references Wanda, Storm, and Jean a lot. So I found like their busts on like Google and like PNGs of them. So I was really using those to help me figure out like, you know, the shading, how the volume worked on like people's hair, and like how like revealing their clothes were and things like that. I will say it definitely helped when I was this is so weird, when I was shading Rose's boobs. definitely helped. Like I said, the game's going to be, but whatever. And yeah, so I'm just doing the line art now, which I guess is like kind of boring because I have nothing else to say until we get into the actual coloring aspect. I guess now would be a great time to tell you that I've never played Marvel Rivals at all. To be fair, I'm not really a gamer at all. Marvel Rivals, back when it first came out, looked like a game I'd really enjoy because I was really big into the MCU phases 1 to 3. And then I never played it, and then all of a sudden the female characters started getting like really, really over sexualized, and I was like, oh, it's fine. Like, it's just maybe people are overreacting. And then like the black cat skin came out, and I was like, oh no, no, maybe they're right about this. But like, there was something that I noted when I was looking at some of the designs for the female characters, was that a lot of their like stuff, I don't want to say it's like over designed, but there's like lots of like MCUified stuff to it. So you see me just like adding random lines in to like add like depth of clothing or things like that, and there was a lot of like unnecessary lines in like the line art, and I was like, you know what, fair play. I'm just gonna try and copy this the best that I can. And it's probably not like a good way to study, but I always study best on the fly because I'm like very much like a kinesthetic learner. Yeah, I was just dropping that because I was learning about that at work. But yeah, I was like, I'm a kinesthetic learner, which means like I learn better by doing. So it's always good for me to be able to do this just immediately. Like it makes it difficult to like learn anatomy because I will never just sit down and learn it. I have to have a reason for doing it. So I guess like doing like YouTube videos on it helps a little bit because I can bribe myself. But in the day, if like I don't want to do it, like this video was supposed to come out like months ago and I just couldn't be bothered to actually sit down and learn. Turns out learning basic anatomy actually helps your confidence in designing things. Why is my line art section going on for so long? Actually, you know what, I'm just gonna cut ahead until the coloring starts. Let's do that. Hello, welcome back. So the coloring, like the base colors that I have for Rose are like years old. You can see on like the bottom right that I have like all of my OC's like color swatches saved, which is really ironic because I'm making a manga, so it's all like, well, I'm making a manga inspired comic. I will get that right. So yeah, it's a bit nuts that all of their color swatches saved, but Rose has like life or death powers. I don't want to go into too much detail because it's kind of low-key a main plot point in the webcomic, but essentially, yeah, she's got life and death powers. So a lot of her like color palette, there's a lot of greens and there's a lot of black, which I love for her because she's low-key a little bit of an emo. But yeah, there's a lot of green, there's a lot of black. So I think in order to like make sure that those colors stood out and to have like a secondary, oh my god, secondary accent color, I added gold in. I'm a gold person, so makes sense for me to be putting gold in there. But yeah, I was just like trying to figure out how to match these colors properly to the design. There's like 4 different like shades of green, but in the end I kind of just thought that I really liked the idea of vines going over like where like belts would be to really give into that nature vibe. So those were a lighter green. Tone wise, they're probably all the same color. I'm gonna be so real, when I was doing this on my tablet there was hardly any difference, and now I'm looking at it on my PC screen and I'm like, wow, the colors are really good on this. So I don't know whether it's my computer, whether it's my monitor, or it's my screen. My tablet screen. But haha, we're finally getting into the shading. How exciting. So for a lot of the shading, I was actually using like an Asaro head with the sun like pointing from the left. I did end up trying to do like really cool like artsy, like, oh my god, we're gonna do like the whole like triangle thing on the right side of the face, and I gave up because I thought it looked a little bit too ominous for the vibe that she was supposed to be giving, so I got rid of that. But I kind of also took a lot of what I learned from Arcane by adding in like in between colors. Now I don't know if that actually did anything, but it kind of made it look a little bit nicer. I was using Jean as a reference for her face specifically because I really liked the way that like it was shaped in the oh my god, what am I saying? In like the reference art that I was using. I think it was really fun. So I used a lot of that. I do think that I may have maybe not used enough like light colors on her face, so I don't know whether it became like a little bit muddy, with the darker color. I feel like maybe I added a bit too much gray into that. Um, Jean Grey. Okay. And then I kind of just go in and try and start making it a little bit messier again, because then I remembered I'm not trying to do the arcane art style. In fact, this is a new study. And I don't know how successful that was. I think it was a fun little thing to do, to be like, oh, let's messy it up. But realistically, that's not the art style. So I kind of was just like improving, which is a lot of this video actually. And then I kind of just go in shading the rest of the body however I would shade it, trying to make it look decently like rendered and 3D, which I fail at completely on the legs. Like the legs, and I gave up. I'm gonna be so real. Like, I think I spent like 5 hours on the shading alone on this, and like, considering I was supposed to do like 3 of these, I've given up, frankly. But when I go back to like the actual shading of this, when I was looking and when I was analyzing everything, I've mentioned it before where it's like messy, but it really is in a way that I can't quite understand. And it's probably because I have no experience when it comes to things like 3D. Like, I'm like not a 3D artist, right? I can't open up Blender and I can't be like, oh my god, yeah, let's make a 3D model today. Like, I'm a 2D artist. Like, I can try my best to try and make things look rendered in 3D, but I really can't do that. So it's one of those things where trying to make it, I don't quite have that skill set. And I think later on I'll get to the point where I start coloring the black lines, and that will be when it starts to come together a little bit. It doesn't look 3D, but it certainly looks not like flat, if that makes sense. I don't like her lips. I just copied it off of the Scarlet Witch. Didn't work. But there was also something on Wanda's skin where it was like a little bit of like a red blush tint, which I just added over the top. And I actually think it worked quite well, even if it was to just like brighten up the colors of Rose's skin. Like, Rose's skin, I've always purposely done like a little bit like more of a gray tone. And I think it worked, just like liven it up a little bit, make it look like she's actually got blood going through her and she's not just like half dead, which could be a cool concept, but not the concept I'm going for. I then, at this point, I'm going through like shading, and that's when I really noticed that like the messiness is actually like working for me. And then I kind of go in and just like blend it all. And I'm not sure if that was the move. Like, I really couldn't decide between like keeping it as like block colors, shading it to make it like a render. I don't know if that's the proper term. I've just seen it on Twitter. Yeah, like, don't know if I should use it as a render or like somewhere in between. And I think I end up going like with somewhere in between. I know it's specifically with the hair I do that. With the rest of it, I wasn't quite sure. I did the hair last. Maybe I should have done that first. You live and you learn. Like, this is a study for a reason, and I never said it was going to be good. And yeah, so it would be literally just going through and shading it. I definitely think when we get to like the like top half and the body specifically, I haven't mentioned her, but I did use Rogue as a reference for the body as well, mainly because she's got like a skin tight suit on and she doesn't have any of like the crosshatch, all of the accessories around like her ribs and stuff. So I found that really helpful to be actually just looking at. And here I really did focus on using those in-between colors. And I am actually really happy with the way that looked. Like, there's small aspects of this whole study that I was happy with, and obviously it's a study, so you're never really going to be properly happy with it, but I really did like it. Like, I liked how shaped is the wrong word, but it's the only word that I can think of right now. But I liked how they're shaped via like the shading, and I don't do a lot of shading when I'm doing like my art in general, so this was super fun for me to like just experience doing. When it was coming to the green, I knew, because I had loads of different types of green, that I was just probably going to have to shade it all one color and then go in and figure it out in like the like, not opacity layer, but like the effects layer. So I think I ended up putting it on multiply, and it did actually work really well, so I was really happy with that. Otherwise I think I might have just cried and given up on the whole thing. It's hot, I'm upset, we're depressed, we're gay, like, a small mental breakdown's gonna do a lot. But yeah, I think we are coming up to the hair shortly, which will be so much fun. Yeah, so the hair was half inspired by, I don't remember what the character's name is. It's the blonde one with the exact same hairstyle. If you can tell me in the comments, that would be much appreciated. But I was looking through it and I was like, it is really shaped. And it was the messiness of it, but it was the way that it was shaded. It was never like in a classic shading style that I would expect. There was always like highlights everywhere, and there was always like an extra color or like an extra line somewhere that didn't necessarily have to be there. But I found that was quite the interesting part, and I actually really did enjoy doing her bangs. And actually, I actually enjoyed doing the hair as a whole. I think the hair and the face for me were like the main focuses of the study. As much as I've done like a whole body render, it was the face and the hair, and that for me is where I really felt like I actually learned something when it came to studying this art style. And it was definitely about like the messiness, and even if you are shading things to make it look more nicer or making it look rendered or whatever the phrase is you want to use, in order to like properly make something look not necessarily stylized, but specifically in the Marvel Rivals art style, is that you really have to throw away anything you define as looking good in order to make the whole thing like comprehensive, if that makes sense. So like if I had used like the messy shading style that I've adopted for the hair now and then eventually adopted for the face on like the rest of the body, and I didn't highlight it as much, I think this could have genuinely been like a really good like study. And I'm not saying this isn't a bad study, it's my first attempt, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, as most artists are. But there was like elements of it where I was just doing the shading that I would usually do. I wasn't pushing myself, and I wasn't doing any of this, which I think is fine at the moment. I'm not necessarily in the stage of growth where I need to be doing this. I just wanted to out of the love of the game, right? And because I work in like a black and white style, I don't really need to know a lot of this stuff. But it, like I said, love the game. And I really did enjoy doing this study. I think as much as it has its faults, and as much as some of it doesn't work the way that it should have, or maybe I should have spent more time on the actual like going deep into how it's specifically done and all of this other stuff, I really enjoyed doing the study. And I think it really came together when I was adding in the classic white highlights. I think for me, this is when I was a bit like, oh yeah, you've actually done a decent attempt at this. For a first attempt, you've done a great job, and there is clearly elements of that style in there that you can identify. It's not necessarily great. Like if I posted it somewhere with no context, they'd probably been like, I think it's the Marvel Rival art style, but it's so shit, I don't really know. But I think it's fun in the elements of like being able to like identify that. Like you add the blue in on the purple on the white, and it's like, oh yeah, I know that art style, that's amazing. But like it's so clear that it's like its own character, which I really enjoyed. And I think I would like to study this art style again. My only problem is that like it's so detailed, and I'm at a stage in my art journey where I don't think I have the knowledge or the patience to be studying like a full thing. So I think I'm happy with where it's at the moment. And going back to like talking about the bust upwards, I'm really happy with like from like the ribs upwards. I think it's a really good, like, I'm just happy with it. I feel like I don't have a lot of words for that, but usually when I don't have a lot of words or like cohesive words, it's usually a good thing. It means that like I'm not happy, but I'm not unhappy. Like there's nothing to complain about, but there's nothing to compliment, which for me is a good thing at this point, because it means that like at least the study had gone decently well. And that has been me studying the coloring style of Marvel Rivals. I hope you all enjoyed my ramblings of a madman, and I hope my mic doesn't sound too bad. Like I said, it's new, so I'm hoping the quality will be better than my last mic. I don't know whether it will be affected because I'm holding it close to my mouth or because I'm talking with my hands. We'll see. If you enjoyed this study, please let me know, and let me know if there's any other art styles you'd like me to be like studying, or you'd like me to at least look at. Like and subscribe if you wish. I won't force you, and maybe I'll see you in my next video.